everyone, Brad Palladini with Palladini Law, and today we're going to talk about the 6 steps towards tax resolution. These are the same 6 steps that we take in pretty much every case. And step 1 is understanding your tax situation. So that is where we have a meeting. So you would meet with a tax attorney and we would discuss exactly what is going on and exactly what your goals are. Over the years, I've had a lot of different clients with very similar circumstances. But even if the circumstances are similar, like they owe the IRS $1 million, their goals might be very different. One client may want to try and settle their debt for less. Another client may want to try to buy time to full pay the IRS. And a third client may want to get the penalty treatment. Someone may be concerned about liens being filed, or a wage garnishment, or a bank levy. So even though cases are similar, people usually have their own goals. So in step 1, we want to understand what those goals are and what the problem is from your perspective. Oftentimes clients don't have all the information they need, and they may not have a complete picture, but at least a general understanding of where you are at in the case. In step 2, we try to get you to breathe a sigh of relief. So in step 2, we would contact the IRS or contact the state taxing agency on your behalf. And this typically happens within 48 hours of hiring us. As soon as we submit the power of attorney and it processes, we contact them, because what we want to do is try and buy some time. So generally we'll reach out to the IRS and explain, look, John Doe just hired us to help him with his tax problem. We're brand new to the case. Can you give us a 30-day collection hold where you agree not to levy my client's bank account or garnish his wages or take some other collection action while we're all figuring this out? And generally the IRS is pretty receptive to that. And that helps the client relax a little bit, breathe, maybe sleep a little better at night. During that call, we will also get all the information we can from the IRS's perspective. Because again, sometimes clients don't know exactly where they're at or what they need. And we need to talk to the IRS to figure out what returns have been filed, what hasn't been filed, how much is the balance due, what are the penalties, what's the interest, are we running up against a statute of limitations? Is there any audit going on? We want to collect as much information as possible in that second step and also buy as much time as possible to move forward in the process. So step 3 is developing a strategic plan. We now know what the client's goals are. We now know where exactly they are at with either the IRS or the state taxing agency. And now we come back to the client with some ideas on how best to resolve their case. Maybe it's a settlement where we settle the tax debt for less than what's owed. Maybe it's some sort of partial pay installment agreement. Maybe we get some of the penalties removed. Maybe it's an innocent spouse case. It will really depend on how steps 1 and steps 2 go. Because depending on the client's goals and depending on exactly where they're at with the IRS will determine which specific options are available to them. It's sometimes frustrating when we meet initially with clients and they are grilling us to know exactly what we're going to do with their case. And no attorney, no tax attorney in the world can ethically tell their client exactly what's going to be done because they don't have all the information they need. It's like going to a doctor and telling the doctor, yeah, I have headaches and my knee hurts and sometimes I have stomach pain. And the doctor's like, okay, let's run some tests and figure out what's going on. And you're like, no, I don't want any tests done. The doctor's like, okay, but can I do an examination? Can I take your pulse? Can I check your breathing? Nope, you can't touch me. Can't touch you, I can't do any tests, and you want me to tell you exactly what's wrong and how we're going to fix it? Yep. It's the same thing here where clients come to us and maybe they have a general idea of where they're at. Like, hey, I owe some money to the IRS. Maybe they have an exact amount, but they don't have all of the information needed to fully develop a strategic plan. Maybe we can give you an idea like, hey, here's the 5 or 6 options available, which are available to more or less every client every time. But to tell you specifically what we're going to do without getting the imperative information we need from the IRS, it's just impossible. And it frustrates me when some of these tax resolution firms across the country will talk to the client in the initial meeting and promise them an offer and compromise. And it's just like, they are telling you whatever you want to hear in order to get you to sign on the dotted line. So by step 3 though, after we've gone from, meeting with the tax attorney, figuring out what your goals are at, then in step 3, we can come back to you and develop that strategic plan. Step 4 is just implementing the plan, right? So there's going to be an entire process that you need to go through. So for instance, let's say we go through the first few steps and we determine that, look, I think we can settle your tax debt for less. So we are in fact going to do that offer and compromise. We're going to need a whole lot of information from you, like bank statements and pay stubs and copies of bills. And we have to put all that together to submit a package to the IRS to try and settle that. So step 4 is really implementation. Let's put the plan that we developed, the strategic plan that we developed that meets your goals in place. Step 5 is monitor and adjust. So you can have a really great plan, but sometimes that plan doesn't go according to plan. So for instance, let's say we decided to do that offer and compromise for you, and we get all of the information that we need from the IRS and from you, and we put the package together. And then at the last minute, I've had this happen before, a client tells me, oh, by the way, I'm the beneficiary of a trust worth $10 million, and I'm going to be getting my money next month. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that, a month ago when we started? Because I would have told you, hey, I don't know exactly what we're going to do for you, but it's not going to be an offer and compromise because, the IRS is going to want a piece of this $10 million. Right? That happens, unfortunately, where things reveal themselves throughout the process that may narrow what can and cannot be done. And it doesn't just narrow, it clarifies the path. So even if you lay out a great strategic plan, you have to be adaptable because you don't know how the IRS is going to react to that plan. And you may have to pivot or shift or adjust the plan to still meet the client's goals and get the job done. Step 6 is resolution and beyond, right? So we do an offer and compromise for a client. The IRS accepts the offer and compromise. The taxpayer pays the settlement amount and the IRS wipes the debt away. Done. Not so much. We want to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because for instance, for an offer and compromise, there's a 5-year period of time where if you accrue another tax debt after the offer is accepted, for the next 5 years, they will revoke your offer. And so it's no longer valid. The settlement is revoked and taken back. Once we resolve your case, we want to make sure that this isn't going to happen again. So if you're owing taxes year after year after year, we want to put a strategy in place where you either adjust your withholdings, so more money is taken out from your paycheck and you're not owing at the end of the year, or if you're self-employed, making estimated tax payments, again, to make sure that when you go to file your return, you're not owing. And maybe that is coupled with some tax planning strategies where maybe you're paying a whole lot of taxes every year and we come up with some tax planning strategies to reduce your liability year after year so you're not continually falling behind. Those are the 6 steps that we take in more or less every case that we handle. I think it's helpful for you guys to understand what the course of action is. There is no magic wand that we can just wave and all of the tax problems disappear right away. We have to go through this process quickly in order to get the results you want and meet those needs. If you have any questions about our process or how we work, feel free to reach out to us.